Homework Hotline, what is your emergency?
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Homework Hotline.
We're here live every Tuesday and Wednesday from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. and we want to help you with your questions.
So if you call us, we'll interact with you and walk you through your problem. Calling is really the best way to get your question answered. Our number is 720-424-1666.
We're here to help you with all things science and math. I'm Nathan, and I teach math at Emily Griffith High School.
And I'm Sam. I teach science at the Contemporary Learning Academy.
I'm Becca, and I teach math at Emily Griffith High School.
So on Tuesdays, we have special guests. Today we have Robin Filipczak, the reference librarian at the Denver Public Library. Robin's going to show some incredible information resources that even non-bookworms will love.
Ooh. So though we prefer to get your phone calls, we know calling isn't always the easiest thing for you. So we do have other ways that you can watch us live. One of those ways is Comcast Channel 22, the traditional TV route, I guess. Prism TV, Channel 8007, YouTube Live at Denver DPS TV 22, or sorry, just Denver TBS, hang on. YouTube Live at Denver DPS TV, Facebook Live at EG Homework, or live stream at livestream.com. Search for DPS TV 22. We also have someone monitoring our social media. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, hi guys, my name is Jordy. I'm an intern here at DPS TV, and I'll be monitoring the social media board. So if you send in your questions via email, Twitter, Facebook, I'll find them here and make sure they get answered. And as well, I am the trivia master, so I'll be giving you guys the trivia question today. And you can call in at any time if you think you have an answer to the trivia question. And the question today is, what do humans and giraffes have in common, specifically in the skeletal system? So once again, if you think you have an answer to that, you can call in at any time, and you can win a prize, actually, if you get it correct. We have 2 tickets to Colorado Symphony, so give it a shot.
Oh, symphony tickets. I still want to take those for myself. So you better call in, otherwise I might take them for myself. I really might. You did get our phone number to give us a call with those questions. You can do that until 5:30 today. But we also have some other ways that you can get a hold of us as well. Jordy mentioned that he checks the social media board during the show, and so you can send those questions in to him at EG Homework at Facebook or Twitter. You could also send your questions to Jordy at 970-680-3771. That is the text. That is the number that you would text in your question. Or you could email your question to us at homework@emilygriffith.edu. So all different ways to get a hold of us. Take your choice. All different ways of watching us. We do it all here on Homework Hotline. So just get to us before 5:30 because we're gone after that. All right, so let's start answering questions. Do you have anything for us, Jordy?
I do. So let's start with the science question. So Jackson is asking, when an ice cube melts, is it an endothermic or an exothermic reaction?
Okay, yeah, so I'll answer that question. Let's just talk about what the difference between endothermic and exothermic is. And actually, there's a great picture that I use sometimes. Okay, so if we could jump to my screen really quick. Oops. Right, so an exothermic versus an endothermic reaction is going to go like this. Thermic, the word exothermic or endothermic contains the word thermic, which just refers to heat. Exo refers to outer. So exothermic is a reaction in which heat is given off. And then endothermic is going to be a reaction where heat is absorbed. Using our little handy-dandy picture here, we can see solid ice, liquid water, and gas steam, water vapor. So, and this kind of shows pretty clearly what's happening. As we move from solid ice to a liquid water and then to steam, heat is being absorbed, and so chemical bonds are being broken. So this is going to be an endothermic reaction because heat is being absorbed into this liquid. So this sort of makes sense if you think about it, right? We have to put heat into ice in order for it to be to turn into water, and that absorbing of energy of heat is what breaks the chemical bonds in solid ice, turning it into water, or which breaks the chemical bonds that the light polar bonds that hold water together, allowing water molecules to sort of float up into the atmosphere. So in this case, when an ice cube melts, it's an endothermic reaction since the heat is being absorbed. The opposite way would be an exothermic reaction. And it can be a little bit confusing because if we think of exothermic reaction, if I go from liquid to a solid, right, liquid water to solid ice, it feels like, okay, ice is colder, so shouldn't that be endothermic? But the idea was that liquid water had to get colder, and it had to give up heat energy to become colder. It's the giving up of heat energy that makes it exothermic. So again, endothermic is the absorption, endothermic is the absorption of heat energy, making something warmer, and exothermic is the giving off of heat energy, making something cooler.
Very nice. I love that diagram.
Yeah, it's really handy.
The diagram.
There's just that little kind of trick of, ice is cold, but water has to give off heat to become ice,
Right.
And so there tends to be this sort of distance in understanding sometimes, or a little bit of a problem when we really try to, like a student will easily be able to tell me, oh, Mr. Exothermic is giving off, endothermic is absorbing. But then when you think about it in real life, sometimes it can be counterintuitive just a little bit.
Yeah, because you almost think water going into steam, it's giving off.
It's giving off, it's so hot, steam is so hot,
it's so
right?
hot, it's giving off energy.
Right, exactly.
I understand. Because actually when I was trying to answer the question myself at the beginning, I was like,
You
I
would
wonder
have
what
thought
it
it the
is.
other way, right?
I thought the way that you said.
Exactly.
I really did. All right, well, we gotta get more questions answered. Gotta get more
Awesome.
knowledge.
Yep, we got some questions here for you. All right, this one is on surface area. So the length of the sides of an equilateral pyramid is 8 centimeters. What is the surface area in centimeters of the pyramid?
This sounds like a geometry question to me, so do you want to take it?
You can have it.
Okay, I'll take this one. All right.
So kind.
I know, I
I
appreciate
really-
that so much.
My manners.
I actually really like these surface area problems. So I actually am pulling up really quickly a picture of an equilateral pyramid. That's what it was, right?
Yep.
So we want to find the surface area. So as good as I am at drawing, these are kind of hard for me to draw for some reason. So we want an equilateral pyramid. So I'm going to cheat and just steal one. So it should be coming up. This is an equilateral pyramid. So when we think equilateral, let's first think about what that is. Get this all sorted out. So when we think about an equilateral pyramid, I think if you're taking geometry right now and you're asking this question, I think a lot of the issue is in geometry you learn so much terminology and vocabulary that it's sometimes hard to remember. But if we think about what the term equilateral means, really it's two words kind of put together, equa, which means equal, and lateral, which means sides. So when we think about an equilateral pyramid, what we're talking about is a pyramid that all the sides are equal. So in this case, Jordy mentioned has 8 centimeters?
8 centimeters.
8 centimeter sides, and we're looking for the surface area. So I'm going to go ahead and say here, all of these sides, every single side on this figure is going to be 8 centimeters. Whether that's talking about the base or the sides kind of going up, everything is going to be 8 centimeters. So that makes this problem actually a little bit easier. And then when we think about surface area, a lot of times when we see these three-dimensional objects, the first thought is, oh, it's going to be a volume problem. When we talk about surface area, we're talking about everything on the outside. So if you think about, well, if I were to cover this in wrapping paper, how much wrapping paper would I use? And one of the things that we can think about is creating what's called a net of this. Basically, what would it look like if I were to unfold this three-dimensional shape? And it would look something like this. So if you think about what this is, it's like if we were to fold each one of these pieces up, they would form this equilateral pyramid. So again, because it's equilateral, we know all of these sides are congruent. So what we can do is figure out what the surface area is of one of these, and then consider that we have 4 of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out one of these triangles that's equilateral, and I'm going to think about how I can find the area of just this. So again, we know everything on here. This is 8, 8, and 8. And we know the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. So in this case, if we look at this, we know that the base is 8. That one's easy. So another trick with this, I've got a base of 8. We actually need to figure out what the height is. There's 2 ways to do this. One is, I think, the way everybody's most familiar with, and depending on where you are in geometry, the only way you may have learned this, is to think of this, because it's equilateral, think of this as like forming 2 right triangles. So all I did is I drew a line straight up the middle, and that's gonna represent the height of my object. It's also going to split this triangle into 2 equal triangles. So now what I have is this side right here is 4, and this side is 4. So because I split this into a right triangle, I can use Pythagorean Theorem, and I can say that this 8 right here is my hypotenuse. Oh, not right there, right here is my hypotenuse. And this 4 is one of my legs, which means that my h is also a leg. My height is also a leg. So I'm going through Pythagorean Theorem kind of quickly because I'm assuming if you're doing surface area, you're pretty comfortable with that. So we could say 4 squared, because it's a leg, plus h squared equals 8 squared. And we can simplify this as, 16 plus h squared equals 64. And then I'm just working through solving Pythagorean. So I'm kind of skipping some steps here. H squared equals 48. And last, square root of each. I cannot see my pen. So h is the square root of 48. So now we know the height of this. So all we're going to do is plug this into our equation. The area equals 1/2 the base times the height of radical 48. And from here, half of 8 is 4, so 4. And I'm going to leave this alone for a second. This is the area of one of these. So again, all we've done right now is figured out the area of this. We still need to figure out the area of everything. So we got to combine all of these. So if the surface area of one triangle is 4 times the square root of 48, then the surface area of all 4, I'm going to do this over here, 4 times 4 the square root of 48, and then that's going to equal 16 square root of 48. Now, it depends on kind of what your teacher is looking for and how precise they want to be. If they want to know in centimeters, typically the way I teach this is if you're doing an application problem and somebody asks you what is the surface area of this equilateral pyramid, it would sound weird to say that the surface area is 16 radical 48 centimeters squared. That'd be a little confusing. So I just do this in my calculator and then I round. And I get approximately 110. I'm such a problem with this. And I usually round to the nearest tenth, so 110.9 centimeters squared. That would be the area of this equilateral pyramid. I'm not going to go into simplifying the radical because that's a whole other beast
story
to work on. So again, if you think about like surface area, we're really thinking about like what would it take to cover this up, cover this object up. So we're going to find the kind of the area of every piece, like every 2-dimensional piece that it would take to create this 3-dimensional object. So hopefully that helps.
Makes sense. Understanding the concept definitely, or thinking about the concept of it definitely helps with those types of problems, surface area and volume.
Yeah, and I always like drawing the net and then like trying to visualize like what it would look like if I folded it all
this
up.
like wrapping paper over top of it. Exactly. Yep. All right, well, let's go back to social media. And see what other questions are waiting for us.
So this is going to be a science question for Sam. David wants to know, how do viruses and bacteria differ?
Yeah, let me pull up a picture really quick. Okay, so this gets into sort of some existential questions about what is life? Like, is life defined by a certain set of characteristics? Viruses are often considered non-living, but biological components, whereas bacteria are considered living. I'm going to pull up just the difference between a virus cell and a bacteria cell. Give me just a second here. So, like us humans, bacteria are made of complete cells, and those cells are capable of doing all of the normal characteristics of life. They consume food and waste the food. They're able to reproduce completely on their own. And this is true whether you think of individual bacteria cells, like, for example, an E. coli bacteria cell that might be growing on some food that you shouldn't eat. And that's also true of the cells in my body and the cells in really any kind of animal or fungus or bacteria or protist. All of these types of living things are complete cells. And okay, we could jump to my screen. It's really not a fantastic picture, but that's okay, because it'll help me get my point across. So on the right side, we have a rod-shaped bacterial cell, and that there are all these different parts of a bacterial cell that we could point to, like the cell wall and the chromosome, the nucleus inside it with the genetic material. Viruses, on the other hand, are much simpler. In a sense, viruses are really just genetic packaging or genetic information, like your DNA or my DNA, coded in protein, but then with really nothing else available to it. And these little virus packages, what they're actually doing is viruses are looking for an opportunity to get into a living cell and then utilize the parts of that living cell to do all the stuff that normal life does. Namely, the big one for viruses would be reproduce. So a virus by itself isn't capable of doing that, but if that virus then comes into contact with a living thing like you or I, the virus is able to infect it, right? And we often talk about viruses as parasites for this very reason. The viruses cannot live without a host, whereas bacteria are individual living organisms that can live perfectly fine on their own. So that's really the major distinction between the two. If you wanted to think about some other distinctions, you might also think about the fact that bacteria are significantly bigger than viruses typically, although that's not always true. There are examples of bacteria that are extremely small and examples of viruses that are really big. There are big questions in biology around where did viruses come from? Did viruses evolve after normal life, or are viruses proto-life? Did viruses exist before life as we know it really came to exist? And in the last few decades especially, there's been some really cool research that has uncovered all these kinds of transitional beings, I guess you could say. And we have found creatures that seem to exist in sort of a gray area between simple bacteria and complex viruses. What we tend to try to do in science classes, especially at the middle school and high school level, is really define things very clearly. This is definitely what a virus is, and this is definitely what a bacteria is. But as we start to look at things more closely, we notice that the distinctions are not always so clear. But back to that really big point, bacteria, by and large, are normal living things like you and I. They're simple single-celled organisms, but they have all the components to do everything they need to do. Viruses lack some of those components. They're smaller. They really just have the genetic code to operate, but they need to take advantage of another living system to use all that living system's organelles or organs to function beyond their basic capacity. So, did that make sense, guys?
It
I felt
did.
like that was a little bit confusing.
Well, I mean, I just think it's a confusing
Topic.
honestly.
general.
In general, it really is.
Yeah, and I think saying that bacteria are non-living is really interesting, but again, it doesn't really, like under a certain strict definition of life, you can definitely say that, but it doesn't really account for their ability to be very active agents
Right.
in their own, reproduction. So I think it's a tricky thing, and it's often sort of a non-starter with students to say, oh no, viruses are just non-living, and you just need to learn this definition.
Right.
That's just how it is. I think it's more interesting to think about sort of that nuanced difference.
Yeah, it is.
But of course, bringing in that nuance complicates things.
Which is why teachers avoid it.
Which is why typically we don't talk about that kind of stuff in
Sad.
high school or middle school science classes, but I think we should. But that's a debate for another time, maybe.
I do completely agree.
Cool.
Right, we could get into this. We really could.
Right, 3 teachers, we could talk about this probably
It's true.
forever.
Well, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Let me explain the segment that you're about to see. You haven't seen any yet this season. This is going to be a back to basics, and what these are pre-recorded segments that explain more basic topics or topics that maybe we can capture an overview and in a quick amount of time. So check out this one. This one is on transformations. And when we get back, by the way, we will have our guest here from the library to speak with. See you soon. So one thing that my students ask a lot about are transformations. They come up a lot in algebra and algebra 2. One way that I break down transformations to my students is the first thing you always look at is the parent function. The parent function is the most basic form of the function that you're looking at. So these are common parent functions. There are a lot of other ones in trigonometry and calculus, but these are some common, more basic ones. And it's, like I said, it's the most basic function of that type. And the parent function determines the shape of that graph. So for example, y equals x, this shape, it's going to be linear, it's going to be a line. The absolute value function looks kind of like, it's like a V. The squared function looks like a parabola. And so the parent functions tell you the basic shape of that function. All the other numbers and things that you see being done to whatever equation that you're looking at to graph tell you where that function is or how that function is transforming. So is it moving? Is it shifting from left to right? Is it shifting up and down? Is it stretching, compressing? But it starts with the shape of whatever the parent function is. In general, so I'm showing an example here of a parabola where our parent function is x squared. And I'm going to show you the basic parts or the basic transformations, what they look like in an equation. So if you're multiplying your parent function by some number, this is talking about either a stretch or a compression. And if you're multiplying your function by a number, so let's say a is greater than 1, so a whole number or an integer, if you're multiplying by that, it's a stretch. And if you're multiplying by a number that is a fraction in between 0 and 1, then it's going to be a compression, so it's going to shrink. If you have also if there's a negative sign in front of your function, then that's a reflection. And a reflection works just like a mirror, where it's kind of like a flip. So if it looks like this, if there's a negative sign in front of it, it's going to flip over the x-axis and be upside down. The h refers to a horizontal transformation or horizontal shift. Horizontal goes left to right, kind of like the horizon. That's how I always remember. So this is telling us if we're moving left or right any spaces. And then this k tells us a vertical shift or transformation. So how many spaces are we moving it up or moving it down? So a lot of times just remember that you start with the parent function that it goes with that tells you what the shape is, and then all of these other numbers that are going on with your function tells you about what kinds of transformations that graph is making. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. As you could tell, that was filmed quite a while ago.
Yeah, your hair was longer.
Yeah. Yep. This is real. This is real. I swear. So it was a while ago. But anyways, transformations, hope you learned a lot about that. We do those back to basics every now and then on different topics, and that's one of them that might come up every now and then. So we have our guest here, Robin Flipsack. She is from the Denver Public Library. How are you today?
Hi. Thanks for having me. You're doing great.
Of course. Thanks for coming on the show. So you work at the Denver Public Library, and
right.
one of the things I think reasons why we're having here today is so that we can share some of all of the resources that are available that I think a lot of us have no idea are there.
Right.
So what would you say is, let's start with, what would you say is the most valuable resource that the public is probably the most unaware of?
Yeah, well, everyone thinks books, right, when we think library. But I think the most important resource is the staff and the fact that we love helping our customers. And, you know, people sometimes are kind of nervous and tentative about getting in touch with the library. So we want people to know that they can walk into any location and get help from a librarian, and there are ways to reach us online that I'm going to show you. You know, there are a lot of resources that are available to you through our website. You don't even have to go to a library to get to the library.
So do you have to be a member to access those resources on the web?
It's a great question. We give cards out to anyone who can prove Colorado address, so you don't have to be a Denver resident in order to get a library card. There's a quick way to sign up online, and I'll show you that. And also,
you can get a library card online?
you can get a temporary card that'll get you access to all of our digital resources immediately. And then students should know that if they have a valid My Denver card, that card functions as a library card. So they can do all of the things that they would do with a regular library card with their valid My Denver card.
So they might not even know that they have access to all of these resources already. They don't even have to do anything.
That's right. Yeah.
So what are the resources that you can access online?
Well, today I want to show you a couple things. One, I want to show you one of our databases, one of our research databases. We have a lot of them, but I'm just going to show you one really easy one that I think will be really helpful to students. Two, a lot of people don't realize this, you can access a librarian online 24 hours a day. And so when it's 10 at night and you're in your pajamas and the assignment's due tomorrow, there's a librarian that can help you online. So I want to demonstrate that chat as well.
Oh, that is so cool.
And then I want to show you some power searching tips in Google, because people think, well, we don't need libraries anymore, we've got Google. But you know, the fact that I have a master's degree in library and information science means that I'm really good at searching. So I have some things I think we can demonstrate to show students how you can really leverage the power of Google.
Oh, I'm going to use these tips too. So
Great.
Awesome. Okay, so do you want to show us? Can we go to the computer screen right now? And do you want to show us some of those things?
Terrific. Okay, so here I am on the library homepage. This is denverlibrary.org. Okay, this is where you want to start. Lots of things you can get at right from the homepage. One, get a card. That's the first thing I want to point out. If you go in here, you can register for your temporary library card right away online. I said you could also use your current card or your My Denver card, but that's how you would access that. Two, I work at the Central Library. I'm a reference librarian down there. I don't want students to think that you have to come to reference and get help from a reference librarian. The expectation should be that you can go into any of our locations and get help. So right here on the side, all of our locations are listed with their hours. And then if you're not really sure what location is near you, you can go to the All Locations map and find out and get some help that way, okay? So let me take you to the teen site. If you scroll down just a little bit, right here, teens, that's going to get you to some sort of age-specific resources. So right away here, you can search the catalog. You can search just ebooks. Maybe people don't know that you can get a book right away from the website, from ebooks right here, and search that way. So you don't have to actually go into a building to be getting something to read from the library.
So you could put it on like an iPad or a digital book reader and just like rent it from the library and not even have to step foot into a library.
That's right.
So people are paying for their ebooks.
They're free
and they
at
don't
the
even
library.
realize
That's right.
that you can get them for free.
That's right. And they're compatible with most devices: Android, iOS, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, the Nook. So yeah, you can read it on your PC. So
I just have a quick question about that. Because I had heard that a while ago,
Yeah.
and I thought it was really cool. But how does that work from the library's standpoint? I mean, do you guys have like an unlimited number of ebooks, or is it? Am I making a reservation for the popular books?
That's
and
right.
waiting?
Yeah, just
Okay.
like a physical book, there's something called digital rights management around digital books that are published, and we buy a certain number of licenses, and we can lend out that number of books
Okay.
at one time. Yeah, so that's why people say, why can't I just get this book right now?
Yeah.
It's digital.
'Cause then
There's some licensing.
They would never sell any ebooks.
That's
if you
right.
did.
That's right.
How many digital licenses would you buy for a given book?
Boy, it depends on the popularity
Sure.
of the book. Yeah, if it's something that's a bestseller, we're going to get more. If it's something that's a little more esoteric or niche, there'll be fewer licenses.
Sure, that makes sense.
But we're kind of always watching that ratio of how many people need to how many we have.
Gotcha.
So, okay, so let's take a look at this homework tab here. I'm going to click on homework. All right, so useful to students. You can see we've got a lot of different resources broken
wow.
out by discipline. So depending on what sort of a course you're looking at, you can go in there and get some resources that would be appropriate for you. Current events, how to find images on the net that are copyright friendly, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to take you into one particular database today that I think is sort of a go-to for students, gets you a lot of great research information. When you have that assignment, that research assignment, and your teacher says, hey, you got to go out and do some biographical research or research this topic. Can't be from Wikipedia. Maybe your teacher says, I don't want you to use internet resources. If you go here into encyclopedias and dictionaries, you can get to what's called the Gale Virtual Reference Library. Now, this is a database that DPS does not own. So you could come with your library card and get access to this through our website. So what's Gale Virtual Reference Library? What I should say first is this is where you will put in your library card number and authenticate into the system. Okay, so I'm in. This is a database of encyclopedias, reference books. So great, that's, what does that mean? They're really sort of specific encyclopedias. So you can get really targeted information depending on what you're searching for. The search I want to do for you today is Jonas Salk, right? There's the scientist who's kind of responsible for the development of the polio vaccine. So when I put in Jonas Salk, and I get back 248 results. So let's take a look at these. So you can see there's a biographical encyclopedia on American lives. Here's a book about infectious diseases, something about microbiology and immunology. Here's even something on primary resources. So a lot of times your teachers are asking you to find primary resources for a research assignment. You can get to them right here. If we're to go into one of these, let's go into the public health, the environmental health encyclopedia, right? So we've got definitions of polio, risk factors, demographics. So we're kind of looking at polio from this public health perspective around the world, okay? Great research tip for you. When you go into one of these databases and you pull up one of these articles, down at the bottom, you're going to get a bibliography to start. And you can do what this is kind of a pro tip. Librarians call it chaining. When you find a research resource that's really great for you, look and find out what that author used to get to their research, and you can chain to those resources and fill out your sort of portfolio of the resources you're going to work with. Okay, now let's go back up to the top. I tell students all the time, all these databases sort of look different depending on who we buy them from, but you can sort of expect that there's an underlying functionality that's kind of common to them. For instance, you should expect that you can email this article to yourself. You can download it. If I click on download, look, I can save it straight to Google Drive. I know a lot of you and your teachers are using Google Classroom, so you can sign in right here and push these resources to your teacher. Your teacher can log in and push these resources to you. Another great thing that is such a time saver, whether it's called Cite It Now or Citation Tools, etc., when you click here,
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's
I
my favorite.
That's what I hated the most.
That was
about
my least favorite part, going back and being like, no, I have to make a bibliography. Oh.
Right. So yeah, so you can see
great.
different citation styles, so it's just a simple copy paste into your bibliography at that point.
Oh my gosh.
Right? It's terrific.
That is really great.
Yeah.
This is so much more efficient. I remember when I had to do research papers in middle school and having to go through like who has the M through N encyclopedia,
Right.
and
Right.
then having to like photocopy it,
Yes.
and like copy everything down by hand. I mean, it's
Yeah,
kind
and
of
then
amazing
take
that
out
you
your
can-
citation book and figure out,
Right.
yes. So it does a lot of the work for you, and it sort of accumulates really good authoritative resources, the kind that your teachers are hoping that you're gonna find. Okay, so notice up here in the corner this Ask Us chat, okay? So if I click there, I'm going to just show you this for 1 second. It's going to pull up a little widget, and this is an opportunity for me to, will it load? Well, okay, let me do this. You can get in touch with a librarian 24 hours a day from this widget. In theory, it should work when you're in the database, but I want to show you at a higher level where this sits on the site. Okay, so if you're on the teen site and you go into homework, there's an opportunity to chat. If you go to our home page,
I've got it up.
you got it up. Okay, Ask Us, you can get to it right from the home page. Okay, so let's click in here. Ask Us chat. If I go ahead and put in a question, so I'm Robin, put in my email address. The reason I'm putting in my email address is because I'm going to get a transcript back of this conversation that I'm having with this librarian. Can you please point me to the Secretary, I'm a terrible typist, of State's website. Okay. And then connect. Okay, I'm going to connect with the librarian right now. So what kind of questions can you ask on the chat? They can be deep level research questions. Hey, I'm working on a National History Day project and I need some primary sources. In terms of math questions, like we definitely get those sort of copy and pasted questions from your homework assignment. And I will say, we're happy to help you with those, absolutely. But we can't really solve for X for you.
Send them over
Do you know where you
here.
can? I was going to say,
That's right.
This show will
Yes.
actually do that.
Right.
So copy and paste the math questions to us and the library
Yeah.
research questions
We are
to you.
unfortunately don't have that 24/7 availability.
Right.
We are not-
And so
Maybe
we'll
that's something we
point
can work on.
we'll point you to great sites like Dr.
Yeah.
Math, for example. But I want you to know like what we can do. You can ask for book recommendations on here. You can ask any sort of questions you're curious about. Don't be shy about the types of questions you have. We're always happy to handle them.
Wow. And
So-
you already got a response.
So here's
great.
Brooke. Here's my colleague Brooke, who's in here asking. She's answering our chat. Would you like the Colorado Secretary of State or the U.S.? Now this is great. This is a librarian doing what's called clarifying the question. Because I asked a question and she's not making any assumptions about what I want. She wants to make sure I get exactly what I want. So I'm thinking I want to tell her U.S. Secretary of State, because really what I want to get at is, the U.S. John Kerry and oh my gosh. State, please. Okay. So she'll return an answer to me. Remember, I gave my email address, so all of this conversation is going to be emailed to me after we're done. And if you go through a really extended conversation where we're pushing all sorts of database links to you and articles.
So you don't have to sit there and write it all down and hope you
yes,
remember it.
That's right. Yeah, it's just going to be, and those will be all hot linked, hyperlinked, so that you can get right back to them.
That's great.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, while we're waiting, how does this work? I mean, clearly you're not sitting there right now answering these
Yeah.
questions, and you said 24/7. So
Right.
where are all
Yeah.
the people like answering the questions? And
Great question. So
Okay.
when Denver Public Library is open, it's a group of us at Central Library at 13th and Broadway who are taking turns on the chat. And then we have an international consortium of librarians who are answering. So for instance, on Friday afternoons, I'm often answering questions for New York Public Library.
okay.
And in the middle of the night, you're going to get a librarian in the UK. But they have access to our resources, so they can help you with almost any question except for maybe like I have a specific account question. What do I owe
Okay.
on my card? But otherwise, yeah, they can give you lots and lots of help. Okay, so typically these are hyperlinked, so I could just simply click and it would open up a new tab. But there you go. So I got
Wow.
what I wanted.
Nice.
And then I use my super polite manners because this is an actual live person. Thanks for the help. Don't worry about the typing. I don't.
Nice.
Okay. So
You're
then
not sitting there on the other end judging the person.
that's
for
right.
typos.
That's right.
Incorrect grammar. I'm not answering your question.
So then I can. Brooke is still typing to say thanks to me, but I'll exit out. Is there anything else that can help you with? Nope. This was great.
And for this one, do you have to be a Denver Public Library card holder for this one?
You
or
know,
no?
you don't. We don't ask people to authenticate when they come in
okay.
here. Yeah, so anyone in
Oh.
theory, we get questions from a lot of different people.
So free service to the public.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
Denver Public Library is great about reducing obstacles and barriers for people. It's really important to us. So, all right, I'm going to exit the chat now. There's a copy of the transcript that's going to be sent to me, and here's the opportunity for me to send in a survey and tell them how great Brooke was. So, now I would like to show you some Google power searching tips. Like I said, librarians are really good at the Google. So here's the example that I've been using this year. Let's assume we're doing some sort of research on the Syrian refugee crisis, okay? So let's just type that in to our Google search, okay? Now look at that. I get 19 million results. That's an awful lot of results. So what can I do to make those more precise, maybe make them more authoritative so they're good for as a research, a research tool?
And my understanding, if you just type in Syrian refugee crisis from the way Google works, is they're going to pick the most popular ones and the ones that are linked a lot. So if you're looking for more academic, it might not be the first one that pops up.
That's right. How do we get there, Nate?
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. So the first tip I have, if you put something in quotations in Google and then you search, right? I've gone from 19 million results to 600. I'm sitting around all the math teachers. Close to 700,000 results. What I did was put those quotation marks in, and what I told Google was I'm only interested in results where that phrase Syrian refugee crisis exists on the page. I don't care if Syria refugee crisis are in 3 different places. It has to be that exact phrase. So that's a way to make your results perhaps more precise. The next thing you can do, if you add in a site :gov, so site like website :gov, I'm telling Google that I want it to return just results from government websites. So when I do that, now look at that. I've got 1,300 results. How did I do that in a Google search? It's kind of amazing, isn't it? To
Wow.
reduce your results like that.
This would only take me several weeks to go through.
Right, exactly. So we've got
several years.
the U.S. State Department, the House Subcommittee on Foreign Affairs, the U.S. Congress, Homeland Security, the White House. So these are pretty authoritative resources. Another thing you can do, keep that site : but change it to edu. Now you're looking at just educational websites like the Brookings Institute, the Bloomberg School of Public Health, the University of South Carolina. So these, you can get at some of those deep research collections around the world that way. And then the last thing is,
So
please.
is this what I might use, like the edu if I wanted academic research? Okay.
Yeah, just maybe that you find that some academic libraries have special collections on a topic. Oftentimes you'll find experts on that topic because their whole, it's a professor somewhere whose research is centered around that topic. So, another thing you can do, and let me go out to another website. If I just say country code URL, the first result is just this bit media page. Okay, so what are these? Every country has an assigned code in their URL for searching. So let's say we're looking at the Syrian refugee crisis, and Google says, hey, I see you. You're sitting there at a computer in Denver, so I'm going to return you results as a Denver searcher. But what if I want to trick Google, and I want to get more of, say, a Greek perspective, right? Greece has been really impacted by the crisis. So I look and I find out that Greece has a country code URL of GR. So I take that site colon and I add GR. Now I've returned just sites from Greece. And the thing is, I searched in English, so it returned me English results. They're not really Greek language results,
okay.
right? So another great way to get at, to kind of get a different perspective when you're doing research on the internet.
So that site tag is really focusing on like something in the domain name.
That's right,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. Huh. So let's just the chat. Please come back and try it out. Give us a holler on the chat system. We just love taking your questions. And if you have other questions about the library, what else can we do for you? That's a great place to ask.
Yeah, I was going to say just ask on the chat.
Just ask on the chat.
So can I
If
ask
you
you,
don't know what else we have to offer.
you have all those like quick like search tips and ways to reduce it. Is there like a cheat sheet for that or something?
So many.
If I wanted. Yeah.
So I was gonna say I love this stuff that you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's another
I do
one.
too.
If you do file type colon, you can do any type of file. So my students use a lot of PNG files.
Right.
Image files, a certain type of them, and you can search that way and only end up with, like, if you want, a Coca-Cola can, but only this particular file type. Type in Coca-Cola can, file type colon, .png. You will only return those, or just PDF.
That's right.
Sometimes I only want PDFs to pop up. But there are, if you type in like Google search tips, there are all these great websites that have compiled 25 Google search tips that will make it probably not as good as the librarian, but you can get close. I feel
Sure.
like. You can pretend.
Here's another great tip for you. If you just do a Google search, over here, this wheel, under the wheel, you'll see advanced search. If you click there, Google kind of does the work for you and gives you a lot of different ways that you can filter those results. So that's an easy way to get there, yourself as well.
Yeah, but it's way quicker to know all those codes.
Sure.
That I like
It's
it.
fun.
Or just to ask a librarian, because I have
So
the
fancy.
Denver Public School librarians do all that stuff for me.
Yeah.
What other things does the library have to offer, not necessarily on the web, but in general for families and kids? And just if you wanted to go to the library and experience something.
Yeah, programming is a big part of our mission. And so we have things like a lot of your students are going to be familiar with the Summer of Reading, which is, birth through 18 years old. In the winter, we do the Winter of Reading for adults. And then any branch you go to, any location is going to have story times. Most of them have a teen advisory board, so if you really want to volunteer at the library and be part of the mission of the library and help us determine what services are best for teens, you can get involved that way. Several of our Central and the Corky Gonzalez branch on Colfax and Irving, and now the Montbello branch is about to go live, all have maker spaces. Those have full recording studios, so you can sign up for time to reserve for music recording. Full suites of all the Adobe products, so you can do all sorts of really great digital stuff.
Those are really expensive.
Yeah.
For sure, that's right. And like I said, staff is our most valuable resource, so there's going to be someone there who can guide you through. Yeah.
Really nice, really nice.
Yeah.
I have to go to the library more often, I really do.
Yeah, we can't wait to see you.
Well, you've convinced me, for sure. You really have convinced me. Well, thank you for joining us on our show, Robin. We really enjoyed having you share all of this information that you guys probably had no idea about, because I didn't have any idea as well. So, and get on that chat. Definitely send your questions into them. as well as send your questions to us. But thank you so much for joining us, and go visit Robin at the library.
Come see me. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you in a minute.
There's times when you wander and ponder all the labels you've received.
Believe me, I've got a few. Never mind from when, why, or how.
'Cause now, everything's different. I found the perfect place.
A space where the labels fade and I'm accepted and supported.
Check what the news reported. Emily Griffith helps all who wish to learn.
Turn towards your future while you finish the basics on your time.
Prime opportunity in this mature environment.
The only requirement is motivation and thirst for success.
Invest in your passions. There's no limit to how far you'll go.
And know that you'll have something in common with everyone here.
We all chose empowerment over standing still in fear.
My name is Robbie Cheney, and my goal in life is to become a filmmaker.
Am I just pretending?
I have been interested in making movies since I was 11 years old. When I first started watching bonus materials on how movies were made, I wanted to get into the Colorado Film School when I was ready, though I had a hard time getting there. And that's when I heard of another school that has a video program, and that was Emily Griffith Technical College. I am good at how things in the program work, from cameras to editing. I have learned how to set up a good sequence in a video and how to work in a television studio for a broadcast.
Art walk in Tennyson?
The best projects I have worked on was a news report about a social gathering doing an art walk. Another project is a non-profit video about Dare Coffee, a coffee truck that hires young adults with autism find and get jobs.
Thank you.
I am a creative artist behind videos and feature films. I have been told by many people that I am really talented at my work.
Well, not that way, like...
And that is my goal, to have a recognition and a passion for my dreams.
Hi, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that as much as we did. But what we would like to do before the end of the show is give you the trivia question one more time, because we haven't had a caller or anybody try to answer it yet. So go ahead, give us our trivia question one more time.
All right, so the trivia question is, what do humans and giraffes have in common, specifically in the skeletal system? And you can call that answer in. You could contact us on social media, email us if you think you have an answer. And once again, if you answer correctly, we'll give you 2 tickets to the Colorado Symphony, so it's definitely worth a try.
And yes, there is no harm for guessing. We don't shock you through the phone or anything like that if you guess wrong. So definitely call in and give us a guess if you aren't sure. That being said, I think we have time for one more quick question. Do you have any up on that social media
I do.
board?
I got a math question for you guys. So
oh, goody.
Lauren wants to know, how can I figure out the chances of flipping a coin 5 times with the result tails, 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 heads, heads?
Tails, 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 heads, heads. She wants to know the chances. Okay. So probability question, and we love to use coins in our probability scenarios as
because
math
hopefully
teachers.
they're evenly weighted.
Hopefully they're evenly weighted. So the idea with coins is that, and as Nathan mentioned, is if they're evenly weighted, then the chance of getting heads and tails is also an equal opportunity, and so that's why it's a pretty good thing to use when we're thinking about probability. So we're wanting to know the chances. When we are finding the chances of one event, we're thinking about the total possibilities on the bottom, so total different outcomes that we would have. And then on the top is the outcome that we are referring to. So for example, if we're looking at this event, what is the probability that we're going to flip tails? Well, we'd say it's 1 out of 2, because there are 2 possibilities, heads, tails, and tails is the one we want. That's one possibility. That is the one the outcome we want. So we'd say that the possibility or the probability for each of these events happening, first for me to get tails, and then if I were to flip tails again, then the probability of that particular event is still 1/2. And same for actually all of these possibilities, all of these outcomes. Now, if you are doing an outcome, if you're trying to find out what the probability is for consecutive events, so first I flip tails, and then I flip tails again, and then I do this, and then I do this, consecutive events, then the procedure for finding the probability of consecutive events is to multiply each of the probabilities of the singular events. So I would take the probability of flipping tails, which is 1/2, and multiply it by the probability of flipping tails again, which is 1/2, and 1/2, and 1/2. And we can multiply those all across, and that's going to give me the probability that I would flip these 5 different events. So then we are going to, or these 5 different independent events. So 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, my numerator is going to be 1. Denominator 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So we get 2 times 2, 4, times 2 times 2 again, 16. 16 times 2 is going to be 32. So the probability of flipping all of those things would end up being 1 out of 32 different possibilities.
So pretty slim chance.
Yeah, and it should be a pretty slim chance because there are 5 different outcomes that we're requesting. So hopefully that helps. We're going to go back now to the trivia question now, and I think we're going to get an answer since we didn't have a winner, sadly. I might just have to take those symphony tickets.
Oh, so sad.
I'm talking about it. If you guys don't take them, I'm taking them. All right, so let's get the answer.
All right, so in case you missed the question, I'm going to repeat it once more. What do humans and giraffes have in common in the skeletal system? And the answer to that trivia is we possess the same number of neck bones. We both, humans and giraffes, have 7 neck bones, not including backbones. That's probably a different number, but just from the neck up, we both have 7 bones, and it's a little interesting considering the tallest land animal on Earth. We share that same number of neck bones. You'd think they would have more, but they're just bigger, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the vertebrae can measure up to 11 inches long, a single vertebra. So we have the same number of vertebrae in our necks, and it's only all mammals have 7 essentially neck vertebrae. That's common for all mammals. Different sizes depending on which mammal you're talking about. And I don't know the average size, but I do have in a note here that an 11-inch vertebra is possible in a giraffe.
That's interesting because I guess 7's the most efficient number for neck bones somehow.
I don't know if that's totally true. So there's the vertebra is divided into, you got your cervical vertebra, and you have your thoracic vertebra, and then lowest you have your lumbar vertebra. And mammals don't always share the same number. It's pretty close, but mammals don't always share the same number of thoracic and lumbar vertebra. But for whatever reason, all mammals seem to have 7 neck vertebrae. I did think this question was interesting, though, because it's like, what do these 2 mammals have in common about their skeletal system? And there's lots that mammals have in common about their skeletal system.
This is a surprising one, because I guess you wouldn't think that, a giraffe and me, we have the same number of neck bones.
Exactly.
You just wouldn't think that.
No, of course. No one wants to talk about the fact that giraffes also have an ulna and a radius. That's boring. But the necks, that is really interesting.
It is really interesting, because it looks so different. It really does.
Yeah.
It looks so different.
Yeah, and I was actually reading, giraffes are obviously the tallest mammal, right?
Land mammal.
Land mammal. Interesting, like half their height comes from their neck, and I guess there's been a lot of discussion about how they evolved to like eventually be that, and a lot of it's related to like all their food is up really high, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't only have that advantage; their tongues are also very long. So their tongues are up to 18 inches long, so they can get a little bit.
Gosh.
As if their neck's not big enough, they need a little bit more reach.
Just
maybe.
a little bit more reach, just
to
to give
grab
them
some
an
food.
extra little edge there.
Yeah.
Extra edge. All right, well, it is time to say goodbye. We didn't get a winner for our trivia question this week, or today, but hopefully we can tomorrow. If you check us again from 4:30 to 5:30, we'll be here to answer your questions. In the meantime, you can check us out on Facebook. You can send in your questions. We won't be here to answer your phone calls, but send in your questions. We'll see you tomorrow.